This is the United Uprising channel. Welcome to today's show. I want to talk a little bit about one of my personal favorite demons, Miley Virus. Now, Miley Cyrus. Now, Miley has been someone I've covered over the years, so I have to be very careful what I say because I don't want to get a bullying strike. I want to let YouTube and the algorithm know I'm a huge fan of Miley. I have a Hannah Montana poster in my home. Of course, that's not true. If I did, you should arrest me for being a creep. But nonetheless, I want to remind you right now to subscribe to my backup channel, Call for Vengeance, if you haven't yet. Please make sure you do that now because just mentioning some of these things are likely to trigger the algorithm and get a strike. And what I want to talk about with Miley is that recently Miley's made the headlines, and that's because Miley's name was mentioned on a list of people who supposedly flew somewhere. And in some emails that were sent between this guy who has his own island and people like Billy Gates, you know, the guy who owns all the land, all the farmland in America, the guy who really wants to put something inside of you, you know, Billy Gates, right? So he was emailing back and forth about Miley, and Miley, of course, was flown to a certain island. Now, the reason I'm covering Miley here is because I happened to check Miley's Instagram account to see if Miley was even making mention of this because I've covered Miley in the past. And Miley has a lot of things she wants to get off its chest. So one of the things is that Miley Virus, when I look up what's going on with Miley, it's very interesting to note that Miley is now living at LA's Chateau Marmont. Yeah, you might be like, what does that mean? Doesn't Miley have billions of dollars? Isn't Miley living here, there, everywhere? Yeah, but Miley's currently at Chateau Marmont celebrating, well, Saturnalia, right? You know, the rituals that they do where they sacrifice and do all sorts of things involving that red liquid. Chateau Marmont is notoriously known, if you're not familiar, as being one of those places with that red liquid is involved. Now, I have to be very careful here how I word this, that red liquid. Some of you might have it inside of your body. Some of you who might be new to the channel, you might not have it actually. You might have more of a black substance mixing inside of you because you might have made a mistake a few years ago. But that red liquid that's inside most of our bodies, that's really what it's about. Okay, these people can't get enough of that red liquid. And I'll even play a clip here which got me in trouble in the past of Marilyn Manson even wearing his sigil of Lucifer ring on his hand, a seal of Satan ring on his hand, where he's talking about this infamous hotel. And what you need to know about this hotel, just like a lot of places that you hear about where celebrities hang out, they hang out in these places because they're safe houses for them. They're safe houses for sacrifice. So Chateau Marmont is a place where a lot of celebrities go. And you might look at it and say, well, how's that possible? I could book a room at Chateau Marmont tonight. Well, there's a floor at Chateau Marmont that's completely soundproof, where rituals occur, while civilians are down below on other floors, and they know the majority of them are obviously Hollywood, people who worship the Hollywood celebrities who would never think they'd actually be doing this right above their heads at the Chateau Marmont. But here's just a quick clip of Marilyn Manson talking about hanging out there with the likes of Johnny Depp, all people I've exposed in the past, Hunter S. Thompson, etc., talking about the Chateau.
See, I was trying to come up with a new Tinder for kids. Kinder. It's like for sexy kids. Oh, okay, well, let me just look at that very specifically because we just point out several rooms in this. They're very important because we're Hunter S. Thompson, Benicio del Toro, Nick Nolte. I'm going to keep name dropping. Johnny Depp, myself, Harry San Champagne, all hung out together. And Hunter S. Thompson had a bandage on his hand, and there was a hole in the window. Over here is where I met a girl that has three names, like Lee Harvey Oswald, Evan Rachel Wood. And then normally, I've never been to this castle part, but Chateau Marmont is very close to my house, and I love Chateau Marmont.
So that specific hotel is where Miley Virus is now residing. Now, what's interesting to note of Miley Virus is that Miley also loves pizza. Go figure, right? I mean, look, everybody out there loves pizza, right? I mean, it's the food. The food pizza is a very good food. A lot of us eat pizza. I mean, if you're Italian or not, you like pizza. I mean, there's lots of pizza places. Now, obviously, a lot of people probably don't like Papa John's or Domino's. Those are pretty gross pizzas. But a good pizza, everyone likes the food, a good pizza food. But celebrities seem to really, really like it, right? So I talked about that in the past. I mean, there's a lot of weird pictures. I don't know about you. If you've gone to a good pizzeria, do you post pictures like this on your Instagram account? Well, Miley has in the past, and I can't even show you some of the worst ones. But, you know, it's normal to do that. It's normal, of course, you're such a big fan of pizza, to have a onesie of pizza. Do you guys have onesies of pizza on it? I don't know. You know what I mean? Or to do pictures like this where you're, like, dropping pizza into your mouth, kind of I don't know. I mean, somebody with common sense would say it's kind of like sexualizing the food, right? Well, that's exactly what it is. So I can't go into more detail of that, but those are things that are on Miley Virus's Instagram, Twitter account, etc. Things that Miley's gotten away with over the years. Of course, if you go to Miley's account, by the way, you'll also see Miley just doing blatant wall-seeing eye symbolism recently and uploads on there. But all the uploads seem to be about Chateau Marmont. So it's very interesting that at the same time that this supposed leak is happening, where the name is mentioned, that she is there. But of course, we know that Miley is there for other reasons, right? What do you think? These celebrities just go to these safe houses for, just to get away from their billion-dollar homes in Malibu? I mean, Miley Virus has a home in Malibu. What are you doing over at Chateau Marmont? Oh, well, it's a very fun place to stay. Oh, is it? No, it's a fun place to stay, but it's kind of like what they based that song. You can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave. Now, Chateau Marmont, not just that clip I played you of Marilyn Manson, is also notorious for where John Belushi died, supposedly had a drug overdose there. There's other famous-ish people, but they're fringe fame, like Helmut Newton, who is apparently a photographer, and that's one of the things people need to understand, too, is a lot of these fashion photographers are famous for doing really bizarre pictures, and you're like, wow, that's really weird. This guy's famous, etc. That's because they're really famous, and they're really propped up to all of us because they call them like photographers of the stars, because they're the ones who do all the photographing and video filming while the lights are off, but they're really on, I guess. But I should say behind locked, closed doors that you would never see, because they film and they photograph all of these acts that they perform, all of these rituals. So people like Helmut Newton are obviously famous for that reason, not because they could press that button on a camera better than you can, right? Because the majority of the poses that these people do on magazine covers are all the same. They're putting a hand over their eye. They're putting a 666 A-OK over their eye. So people out there just don't think. They see this stuff like, oh, he's a famous photographer. And they just, oh, wow, well, what makes him better than anybody else out there? Does he press the button faster than other people to take the picture quicker? Wow, you're worth billions of dollars and you're only worth nothing. Right? Nobody thinks like that. Well, the reason is because he photographs a lot of these events, and if anyone found out about it, he'd get his head cut off if he ever leaked that information. Now, he was also somebody who very coincidentally died at Chateau Marmont in 2004. I'm sure maybe he was getting to a point where maybe he was going to leak some information or they didn't trust him, so he bit the bullet. And they give a nice little story. I think his story was like he was drunk and he crashed into something. So anyway, I want to do this video about Chateau Marmont because when I looked up her Instagram, or his Instagram, whatever it is, Instagram account, it's interesting to note that it's staying there, because these are things you could look at and you should be suspicious about and say, okay, these are safe haven homes for these people, right? You might know a lot of these haunted houses that are famous throughout our culture. This is another thing people should think about. These are famous because these are places where massive rituals have occurred. Somebody important was either sacrificed there, or there was some type of ritual there that led to somebody becoming big, famous, and whatnot. And the spirits and entities inside of that home are ones that they summoned. They tell you to go there and they say, hey, go out to New Orleans. There's a lot of haunted houses. And people don't realize, yeah, well, they're haunted because there's demons that were invoked there via ritual sacrifice. And they glorify it by making it famous and then having you go there, pay money to be there. And then some of these things attach to you and follow you out of these homes. So you got to really start understanding the spiritual side of this stuff, not so much, all the things in the Bible that tell us about love and how wonderful God is, which are all true, but God also warns us about the wicked and the evil. And this stuff is happening day in and day out. So if you look at the celebrities and you see their patterns of behavior, like going to Chateau Marmont all the time, you're like, why are they going there? And they're like, well, civilians could go there, so why are you suspicious of the place? There's a whole floor that's locked down. There's a tower there that you have to secretly get into, that only these people could go into, that are soundproof. So they use these places as fronts and safe havens, just like they use art and art museums as fronts and safe havens, because you could buy a picture and put any price you want on the picture. Huh? Nobody ever thinks about that. They're like, oh, it's an art museum. This guy's real famous. Oh, this painting's worth $1 million. You look at the painting, you're like, wow, it looks like somebody took a dump and threw it on the canvas. Yeah, well, that's exactly what they did. But they're listing it for $1 million because the other transaction that's happening underneath it is what you don't know about. But this gives an excuse as to why $1 million got transferred from this guy to that guy, all in the name of art. You can't question it because, as they say, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? So this is the corrupt world we're living in. All of these places that are propped up, like Chateau Marmont, even places like Area 51, which I could do a different video on, but even the things that have happened over in that area where Area 51 is, involving Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, the guy who created NASA, Hubbard, the guy who's behind Scientology, the rituals that were done out there, of course, and the demons that were invoked through their rituals that they've done. Of course, these are rituals involving youngsters with usually blonde hair and blue eyes, as he likes to say, but that's what right out of Aleister Crowley's books. And then, of course, these celebrities like the Beatles have him on their album cover. Jimmy Page buys his house. Jay-Z wears him on his shirt. The Jonas Brothers wear him on their shirt. And nobody out there is suspicious at all. They got famous because they're really talented and you're not. And you're just a hater. That's the mindset of today's society, right? And of course, they wouldn't even be alive and existing if we actually all, didn't allow this to occur. We've empowered them by not stopping them years and years and years ago. And this is before I was even born. Because we're talking post-World War II. They were starting to, I used to say, like, they give people the American dream. Like, oh, yeah, you could work at the grocery store and you could be a homeowner. Now, you kidding me? Of course not. But back then, you could. Everybody was distracted with worldly things. And they were, and you do this and you send your kid off to school. And they were building and building and taking control of Congress, taking control of everything, infiltrating everything. Right now, we're at a point where they control everything. They have a military protecting them. They have police protecting them. So they're almost untouchable. And people go, well, what are we going to do? Well, the trumpets are going to sound soon enough, and then they're going to really be in trouble. But back to the story, because I'm going off topic on a rant. Sometimes that happens when I'm passionate, which is pretty much every video. But, one of the things I want to note with the leaks and the supposed stuff with Miley virus being on a plane and all that stuff. Miley virus is one of the biggest handlers there are out there because Miley is a perfect example of what happens in Hollywood. These people are victims at a young age, and then they become handlers. So some people look and they go, well, they were victims, so it's a shame that they're now handlers, and they give them a pass. So I don't really give anyone a pass. Obviously, it's disgusting when you look at the parents. You can look at Miley Virus's father, godmother, Dolly Parton, who's, of course, trying to get black goo inside your body, among other things. I've exposed Dolly recently. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. But Miley is now one of the big handlers out there. So that's what Miley's busy doing, is being a handler, being a groomer, because that's what ends up happening. It's a vicious cycle that occurs. So anyway, back to Chateau Marmont. This is where Miley's living now. Don't be suspicious about these places. If everybody started being suspicious and started looking at things and reading between the lines, they expose themselves. They reveal these things to all of us. Look at some of the grainy footage she's releasing, and she's like, it's incredible. Yeah, I'm just at Chateau Marmont. You could tell that rituals are occurring just by the graininess of the shots. Deliberately putting it out there as if it is done like on a old camcorder type of thing, right? While Miley's, on all these posts and Miley's history of loving pizza, not necessarily the food, all-seeing eyes, of course. You might remember even in the past donning the Satan shoes from Lil Nas X that had human blood inside of it, but they said it wasn't real human. Red liquid inside of it. So Miley is living at Chateau Marmont. Just remember, when you see any of these places and they tell you it's just a famous ghost town or ghost house, that there's likely rituals involved in it, and they prop these things up, and nobody would ever think. They'd be like, yes, whatever you're saying isn't true. This is where this occurred. This is where somebody had some type of an episode and died, but they say it's haunted, Ooh, yeah. They don't even connect the dots between hauntings and demons and spirits and ghosts and demons. They just think it's like somebody's grandma farting around. They're like, hey, I went to this house. It's a haunted house. You're like, who's in there haunting it? They're like, oh, it's spooky. It's somebody's great-great-grandma. What is it doing there, the great-great-grandma? She's trying to make somebody chicken casserole, chicken pot pie. What is going on? They don't think anything of it. They think that their relatives are coming back to visit them. They're like, I want to talk to my dead cousin. And he's like, oh, okay, well, just do this invocation, satanic type thing, and your dead cousin appears. They're like, oh, no, my dead cousin, move my Ouija board or move my hand. You're like, you sure it's your dead cousin? I'm positive. Oh, no, you're not. It's actually, you're summoning spirits and demons. This is all in the Bible. It's all forbidden by God, and this is what they do. They normalize it. They tell people that ghosts are real, and they put all these, and everyone watches, and they go to psychics, etc. But they don't believe demons are real. And the occult is real. It's incredible how they've worked this whole operation on people's minds. And this is what the CIA has been doing for decades and decades and decades. Right? So everybody thinks this stuff is make-believe. But they're like, there's really ghosts, though. There's really aliens, though. They believe that. And you tell them that they're demons. Like, that's crazy. No, they're not. Right? Oh, it's not your grandma. It's a demon. It's a spirit, demonic presence. No, it's not. Oh, but the UFO with the flying alien thing out there, they don't know the origins with Aleister Crowley and Lam, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the world we're living in, ladies and gentlemen. These people are just openly letting you know where they are, where they're having their rituals, because that's exactly what Miley is doing. but nobody out there is seeing it. So even Marilyn Manson can let us know that they do these rituals there, and nobody connects the dots. He's covered in satanic tattoos and rings and Masonic rings and emblems and secret society emblems. Boy, oh boy. Welcome to the dumbed down world of 2024, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you found this video informative and helpful. Please make sure you subscribe to my other channel now if you didn't earlier. A Call for Vengeance. I'm trying to build that channel out. One more strike, I won't be able to upload for a week here. So if you like my daily content or any of my content, I highly recommend you do. If you're new to this, well, I've been thrown around quite a bit. So trust me when I say I'm not asking you to subscribe because I want to be popular. I'm asking you to subscribe so you know where I am in case you want to watch my videos, because it's hard to find them. Ask some people out there listening. They'll tell you. I thank everybody for being here. Again, hope you're all well. God bless you as always and your families.